Okay, we're on. We had a little bit of a hiccup, but I think we're on. Does everybody see us? Sorry to be late, but we're here.
That kind of day.
Okay, yeah, it is that kind of day. So we are really excited to be here with you guys today. Hopefully everybody has their coffee or tea for our chat. My name is Vicki Neufeld. I am a business partner for Karen Cooper, and I'm excited to guest host for her on her behalf today. And we're really excited to have Carrie Thomas with us today.
Thank you.
She has a company called Conquer the Chaos. So hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And
it's
thank
a
you
pleasure.
for watching my TED Talk and giving such positive feedback and inviting me here to talk about this.
Thank you. I loved it when I saw it, and so we were very intrigued by it and excited to share it with the group today. So we also have Melissa Oliver with us today, who is here on the side helping us manage all the technical stuff. If you have any questions, comments, likes, just be sure to type them into the comment field, and we're happy to take questions as they come. So Carrie,
Yes.
I actually first took note of your talk on. You have a TED Talk called. Clutter, was it Clutter to Clarity?
From Clutter to Clarity.
From Clutter to
Yes.
Clarity. And I loved it because I think every one of us as business owners, as mothers, as agents, I think we all have a lot on our plates, you know? And so clutter is a constant issue in our life, trying to manage all the information, all the things, all the people. So we're doing okay? Okay, awesome. So so I wanted to kind of, when I saw it, I love the idea that really clutter is much more than physical stuff, right?
It's not just the things.
Yeah, and you really, I think you're like the first to really kind of point that out and kind of enlighten us on that. So I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit more, just to tell us a little bit about yourself and tell our audience.
Okay, great. So as she mentioned, I own a company called Conquer the Chaos.
Yeah.
I do mostly small business and home office organizing.
Okay.
But I started, even back further, my background originally is in special education. And I taught for 8 years, and I loved every minute of that, but we moved around quite a bit, and it became difficult to maintain that career. So I had the opportunity to stay home with my children for a while. In 2007, I was ready to, get back into things and go. Yes, exactly. Besides volunteering.
This has always been a passion of yours.
Yes. And so I had a friend in Florida who had become a professional organizer, and I was down in Florida visiting, and I will never forget when she told me, and I was just like, that's a job. I'm good at that. I can do that. Yes, organizing that. I've always had done it for family and friends and everything for free. So she got tired of me asking her questions, and she pointed me in the right direction and told me what I needed to do and the professional organization and everything. And so around that same time, I also had a friend who was struggling with a lot of clutter and
physical clutter.
Yes, stuff. There was a great deal of physical clutter clogging her home.
Okay.
And so she asked me. She said, "Yes, you need to do that job, and you need to start with me."
Okay.
And I wanted to do it.
You made your first client.
Yes, I did. I wanted to do it for free, and she said, "No, I have to pay you because then, I'll feel like this is serious. I've got to do it." So she didn't pay me a whole lot, but that was my first official client. And right around that time, we moved again. We moved here to Leesburg, and so when I got to Leesburg, I said, "You know what? This is the perfect time. I've had my first client. I'm going to jump full in and be a business owner. I'm moving to a new place. Let's just do this." So I haven't looked back since then. I started with very general organizing, all types, kitchen pantries, the types of organizing you think of. Exactly. And then I figured out that I was really, really good at paper. I've had clients call me like a paper ninja.
It's another type of clutter.
It is, yes. Okay. And so that became my favorite thing. So I went back in 2014 and got certified to help. It's what's called a certified productive environment specialist. And so I help businesses and anyone with a home office or anything with their systems and things like that. But what led me to this TED Talk is I still always was intrigued with how people got to the point where they were. Yes.
Right. You want to know sort of the background.
Yes. Yeah. And yes, I work with businesses that are just very cut and dry businesses. We need help with this filing system, but they're rare. Even even business owners, if they have a great deal of clutter, there's usually an underlying reason why.
That's
And
fascinating.
so, yeah, so I've always wanted to keep one,
Yeah.
one foot in that.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good. So let's dive a little deeper about
Sure.
that. I think one of the first things and we're going to post the link to her TED Talk, which I think is very interesting. And so you get a chance to listen to what Carrie had to say. But one of the things I took away from listening to your TED Talk was the word overwhelm. I think a lot of us, we use this word, sometimes you hear stress, but a lot of the word overwhelm is a constant word in our vocabulary, right? Overwhelmed by our homes, by our businesses, by the amount of information coming in, by managing our clients' homes and their clutter. So, and what does overwhelm do to us on the inside?
So, and I say this in my talk, but it makes people paralyzed. It makes you feel ashamed.
Yeah.
It makes you feel stuck. I've talked to very, very, successful business owners that are well known in the community and always look put together. And they walk around with this hidden guilt and shame that, no, I don't really have it all together. Whether it's time, you can be overwhelmed by, just time management. You can be overwhelmed by the actual, digital, whether it's email. Some people need help with that type of thing. So so it brings up so it brings up a lot of very negative feelings which keep you stuck.
And do you think, is it part of human nature? To some level, we're all going to have some level of clutter in our lives, right? It's sort of how we process it and manage it, or being at least self-awareness.
Yes, and it is cultural. We definitely have more here in the United States than other places. But I think it's also, it is passed on, and it is almost genetic to where we feel safe
with our
if we're surrounded by things.
Yes.
You can see that. I've helped some children who've gone through trauma, and they almost build up a wall, in their bedroom like that. It feels safe with their stuff.
But stuffed animals, toys, and as adults, we have, our shopping and our. We were talking a little earlier. One of the things that I think a lot of us deal with in the real estate business is, helping our clients with their stuff in order to help them be able to move or transition from point A to point B. So it's good for us to not just be aware of clutter for our purposes, for our homes and our own selves and mindsets, but also in identifying when we see that, alert, like knowing who to talk to and what to do.
Well, and in your industry, you're in a unique position that I'm in as well, that a lot of other people aren't, in that we get to see or have to see the intimate workings of people's homes.
And often, sometimes if someone's feeling uncomfortable or unwilling, like they're going to delay the walkthrough, delay the appointment, delay what it is that they're trying to achieve in their life because they're embarrassed or they're having feelings of, anxiety or stress over it.
On the flip side, though, I will say positively, I've had some clients that have had years of hoarding or years of clutter, and what's finally made them make that decision that needs to change is the desire to move. I had one client, all their children had gone to California, and they said, the only thing keeping us here and not in California is this massive amount of stuff.
Isn't that crazy? That stuff can kind of keep you stuck with your, Okay, I love that. So clutter sort of, I think you said clutter perpetuates the overwhelm. It sort of adds to those feelings that we all have on a regular basis.
It's a vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
What would you say are the different types of clutter? I think you define them, and maybe give some examples.
I do, yeah. So I'd be happy to. So physical clutter is what people normally think of, and it's what we've mainly been talking about so far. It's your closets, your stuff, too much
clothes, too much toys, too much garage is overflowing, closets are overflowing.
Yeah, exactly. I just got rid of over 300 books myself, and my house doesn't even look cluttered. And so it's just, all that stuff. So that's physical clutter. That's the main kind. There's also digital clutter, which I'm working with more and more these days. I think I told you when we were getting ready for this, I have a dear, dear friend who has 174,000 emails right now. And she's almost to the point where she just wants to burn the computer, get a new email account or something.
And it probably keeps her from wanting to come to her workspace, right?
It
Open up
does.
her computer.
It keeps her from being productive.
Yeah.
Because she's stuck. So we're working on that. I've given her some strategies.
So that's like emails, being able to locate your files and folders.
Right. And I'm sure in your business, like you guys have naming conventions as far as how you look things up or how you file it, or do you put the address or the name or the date, or, and businesses need to decide that as a group. But what people don't realize is that's helpful also for your personal files.
Sure.
And so people don't think about, how am I going to name this? Where am I going to keep this? And so I do a lot with digital now also. Even if people are remote, my virtual clients, we can screen share and I can help them set up. So those are the two, physical, digital. There's also mental clutter, which is just
complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated. And these get more complicated as I go on. There's 2 more types after this, but mental clutter is, it's just all the voices in your head. It's the waking up at 2 a.m. with the to-do list and just
that was made last night.
Yeah. So it's just too many things. And I think when you talk about overwhelm, part of what causes that and part of what brings that mental and then the emotional and spiritual we'll talk about is that we think of busyness as a badge of honor. Like
it's part of our culture.
Yes.
Right?
And if you pay attention, pay attention for like a week and walk around everyone you see and you say, well, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. 90% of people, that's their response.
It's true.
That's what they say.
And why is that? It like solidifies our
that you're valuable.
Lazy.
Yeah, you're not lazy. You're working hard.
Yeah.
You have a good
I'm
career.
You're successful.
You're successful. Exactly.
Unless you're Brian Buffini, then you're never too busy for your referrals, right? That's so funny, but it's true. So busy doesn't always. It actually kind of creates more of that frenzy and that feeling of overwhelm.
Right. So you want to work. That old saying, like work smarter, not harder, so that type of thing. So that's mental clutter.
Okay.
And then emotional clutter, it's hard to define just in a quick,
Right.
talk like this. But basically, it's negative patterns, a lot of things from childhood that you might not even realize that you have. Just, whether it's guilt or voices about, your worthiness or,
not good
those
enough,
not good enough, or I'm not smart enough,
Yes.
or those type of things. That can be emotional clutter.
So it's like your self-limiting beliefs.
Exactly.
Is what they are, right?
Yes.
I asked you earlier, what is a clutter? And I think you said clutter is like a blockage of some kind, right?
Is.
It's something that's stopping you from something else.
Right.
Something
Right.
better.
So when you think of physical, it's stopping you from enjoying your home, or it's stopping you from having people over. When you get into these other types of mental, emotional, spiritual, it's blocking you from either the life that you're supposed to live. Maybe you have a calling or a real talent and you're not showing that to the world because there's too many fears or too many excuses, or from the life that you want to live. Like those people that couldn't go to California, they had a vision of their life and how it should be, and so they needed to clear that clutter out.
In a sense, the physical, I think, and the digital, like you said, is maybe more manageable, or maybe I guess easier to sort of deal with than some of the more deeper spirit, like
yes and no, they are tied together. And the good news
together.
is if you work on one,
Yeah.
the other areas, it all melds together and trickles down. Yes. So
that's interesting.
so they are definitely tied together.
Okay.
I've had people call me months later and say, I'm thinking of one woman in particular, and she hadn't slept in her bed in a very long time. And so we cleared that, and she, got off the couch and things like that. But then she called and she said, I've had my first people over. And then another month after that, she went on her first date, so it does start to.
So one step helped with the next step, and then on.
No, I'm not guaranteeing that to anyone.
Yeah.
But there's actually Peter Walsh. He's a very famous organizer. He's been on Oprah and everything like that. He has a book that he wrote called "Does This Clutter Make My Butt Look Fat?" And the whole book is about the connection between your physical clutter and the need to overeat, or how it all ties together, and that very often they go hand in hand.
Very cool. We actually I just finished over what was my beach book, was Soulful Simplicity,
That
which is
sounds
a
good.
great book. It was sort of the same concept of reducing what you have so that you can live more freely and do the things you want to do versus feeling stuck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that leads me to the last type
Okay.
that I talked about in my talk. So when you have that emotional clutter,
Yeah.
and you have those blockages or those things that are keeping you from living how you're supposed to live, then what happens when you're not living out the life that you are meant to live, you lose your compass, so to speak. And then that brings in the spiritual clutter. You doubt yourself, you doubt, whether it's universe, God, whatever it is, you start to doubt the purpose of things and why am I here? Where your core. And so it all
It's
flows
like a
together.
funnel that kind of can bring you up or take you down.
Exactly.
Right? All right, well, that's
Exactly.
fascinating.
That was a quick
That was
overview.
good. That was really good. So we talked about so the effect of it. You said some examples of some of the people not being able to move. Now we again dealt with lots of situations where there's people that were hoarders and again unable to move. As I mentioned, when we're selling people's homes or helping them buy, there's such we call it emotional, right? It's an emotional business, and so trying to. What are some advice you can share with us on helping us maybe deal with our own clutter? This is a loaded question.
Okay.
And then maybe the second part of that question is how do we help our clients to deal with it? Because if we can't get them to overcome, or when do we bring in the professionals, then we can't help them accomplish their goals of moving.
Okay. I think I can remember all that. That
Okay.
was a long question. Okay. So basically starting with your own clutter. When I work with my clients, I use a 5-step productive environment, like the process. And step 1 of that is to state your vision. And that's where I start with everybody.
State your vision.
Why are we on the phone together? Or why am I here in your house? Why are you talking to me? What brought you to this point? And where do you want to go?
Okay.
And so that's the first thing you need to think of. And I've used this example before, and I used it in a workshop, but you think of your closet. Some people just want to be able to walk in and not trip over things.
Yeah.
Other people want what I call a destination closet. You've seen them in real estate, I'm sure. They have a chandelier. They have a pretty bench. That every hanger matches, that type of thing. And so either for yourself or for me going in to help someone, I need to know that vision.
Shows are the different visions.
That's a very, very different
I just
vision.
usually get into my closet versus I want every shirt to be labeled and what type and all that.
Exactly.
Okay.
In your kitchen, do you just want surfaces clear, or do you want your spices alphabetized? That's an extreme example.
Yeah.
But, so you start with your vision.
Okay, that's great.
You think about where you want to go. The other thing I always tell people is you're doing it for you. I've only seen 2 houses in my entire life that look like a magazine, and the people actually live that way and function that way. Yeah. And the
Melissa's one right there.
I'd like to come over. But the reason Melissa does that is because that's what she wants.
Yeah.
It's not what
to that level of perfection.
Right. It's not because you picked up a magazine, or it's not because you saw a show and you said, oh, guilt. That's how my house has to look. It's because that's how she feels comfortable. Other people would not feel comfortable in that. I'm sure you've had friends that have said, oh my gosh, this makes my skin crawl.
It doesn't feel like
talking
home.
about this.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
some
home.
people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to do what works for you.
Okay.
That's like another thing I start off with everybody. Even, I've mentioned, I'm talking a lot about physical, but I mentioned that most of my business now is with professional clients. But even with that, you have to do what works for you. So let's take files, for instance. Some people, they don't want to see them. They want the very nice file cabinet is put away. Other people, if they're very visual learners, they want color coordinated binders, or they want, I've even had clients who they couldn't even put it in that. We did a series of hooks and they did clipboards for each project so they could take it and go.
Physically take it.
Right. So the bottom line, the point I'm making there is you have to do what works for you.
Yeah.
Some people would think those clipboards were horrible eyesore and they would walk in and say, that's clutter.
Yeah.
For other people, that's the only way they're going to be.
And that makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of study on how different people learn different ways, right? Audio and visual and all that. And so I guess the same idea there is different way people want to live and maybe process their information in different. So understanding your clients' vision and understanding their Okay, that makes sense.
So the same thing that I do with my clients as far as that questioning, that's what you could do for yourself. If you're not interested in hiring someone, you would start with that. Like, what do I want? What makes me feel comfortable? And why am I even thinking of making a change?
Yes.
The second you were a series of steps.
Yeah. So
That was the first step.
first step is figuring out your vision.
Right.
Vision.
The second one is to identify, I'm going to say this out of order because I've had a crazy week that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I feel like I should explain to everyone. So my son had emergency surgery. I had to drive across country, move my other son into his dorm, and it's just been crazy. So I'm probably going to say these out of order, which
It's
I've
okay.
never done.
We're enjoying this conversation. It's actually very
So-
interesting. It's really
So
interesting.
that's horrible. But so the next one is to identify your obstacles.
Okay.
And sometimes it's cash. Like you might want to do an office makeover or a home makeover or put in those gorgeous systems in your garage, but I don't have the money right now. So is it important? Am I going to save for it? Am I going to make do with just some wooden
Okay.
shelves and plastic bins? So, identify your obstacles. Sometimes the obstacle, sadly, and I have to say this though, because it does come up a lot, is the person you live with. Like my spouse or my roommates, they are not organized. And how do I did a talk.
That's a really important point, right? Because you
Yes.
might be very different than your partner, and so
Yeah.
you have to sort of balance. Like if your level of living is perfection, and the other person's like living wants to be comfortable, but
Right.
you have to sort of
Right. I
figure
did
it
a talk for a senior group,
Mhm.
and it was the only talk I've ever done that was all senior citizens, and it was at a church, and it was a wonderful group, and I just did on like general concepts of organizing, and the whole question and answer period, the organizer actually shut down the question and answer period because we were going so long. The whole question and answer period was about like, well, she does this and he does
And
this.
he does
And it
that.
turned into the total marriage counseling. Like, okay, you guys are all clearly, over 60, over 70, and they still hadn't figured it out. So that sometimes
But
is
you're right, that's a very important consideration.
that sometimes is an
Mhm.
obstacle. Time can be an obstacle, which is many times why myself or other organizers or productivity specialists get hired. People will call and they'll say, I know how to do this, but I'm like, it's okay. It's kind of, you have to prioritize
Right.
what you're going to spend your time on. And sometimes it's worth it to spend the
And
money.
having a third party, a third
Mhm.
eye who's a professional at it that can come in and sort of like right away say, what's your vision? What are the obstacles? What, like sort of helping them narrow makes the process a lot faster, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
So then you're going to identify what you do have. Maybe I do have I don't have good systems, but I have a really big office.
Yeah.
So, I can make really good use of this, or I do have the money, or I do have the time, or I have, my best girlfriend loves this.
Mhm.
So I'm going to buy a couple bottles of wine and she's going to come over and help me,
Mhm.
that type of thing. So you identify, what you do have, and then you put your plan into motion. And when you put your plan into motion, there's two different categories of people, and I always ask some questions to help identify which type people are, and there's no right or wrong. It's like being left-handed, right-handed. Some people want to dive in, do the whole project, do it all in one day, do it all in one weekend, like whatever it is. Some people need to break it into very, very small chunks.
And chisel at it, right?
My favorite client ever, I just saw him yesterday actually, is Bob. And Bob had years and years, 10 years worth of clutter built up and no systems. But he wasn't sure about me or about the process or anything. And so all he would commit to was 2 hours a week. He didn't want to buy a package. He paid full price every time. And because he didn't want to commit. And we worked 2 hours a week for 18 months.
Wow.
And did his entire house, did his storage from when his mother had passed. And now I see him quarterly, which is why I saw him yesterday. And I think he would be just fine on his own. I think he saves his mail and bills so that we can
Do you
sit and
think
chat.
there's a better strategy to try to sort of like if a lot of us have kids back in school, we have my kids as well, and a lot of us are back in school and kind of trying to, like, after a whole summer of activities and things going on, is sort of getting our home offices back in order. Do you think there's a better strategy of sort of trying to go get it done at one time? Is the chance of keeping it or maintaining it better with one versus the other?
I think for offices, I think it is better to go in and do it all at one time because you have a huge impact. You feel like people physically like, oh,
it's the best
oh my
feeling,
gosh,
right?
yes. Even if we don't get everything done with the type of systems that I implement, I mean, it's guaranteed you will know, even if we didn't finish, you will know the next day where every piece of paper should go and how to keep it maintained. And that is harder to do bit by bit.
Yeah.
I do it bit by bit with my virtual clients, only because nobody wants to sit on Skype or Zoom for 8 hours, that type of thing. But there is a bigger impact. But you bring up a good thing about going back to school.
Yeah.
So there's different, different phases to the year.
Yes.
People talk about spring
Yes.
cleaning and back to
Yes.
school, and then the holidays are coming. And so it is good to build in routines. Right the week before school starts, we clean out last year's stuff, or some people might do it right when school ends,
Right.
but whatever works for your family. But it is good to have those routines, because even if you are an extremely organized person, you still need maintenance, and you still need occasional purging.
I find this time of the year, fall, it's a great time to typically our spring and summers are super hectic. And so finally, fall is kind of like a rebirth. So it's a great time to cleanse, clutter, clean, after, just put our inboxes back in order.
Exactly.
I feel like it's the best time to do it. In fact, one of the things, we're doing a talk next week about back to school and back to work. And one of the ways to sort of get back into routine is to do all of this, is to kind of get organized and there's so many, I guess you just prioritize what's bothering you the most.
Right. Exactly.
That's how I do it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's what works for your family. I had one family that just the laundry was a huge issue, and kids, but they don't put it in the laundry basket and things like that. And one simple tweak, all we did was take the lids off the laundry basket and just put the lids away. She actually put them in her basement.
And
no more lids. And all of a sudden the clothes can go in the hamper.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's the smallest thing that can feel huge. And so I encourage people to, you're used to your life. And so what I do that helps is I look from an outside perspective. But like I said, you can have a girlfriend even and say okay, I'm not complaining about my kids or my spouse, but these are the 5 things that absolutely drive me crazy about the way my house functions. No judgment, no nothing. And
write it down or talk it out.
Write it down, talk it out, and brainstorm. And now with, you have to be careful, because I was going to say, you can find cute ideas on Pinterest, but that's another, I think Pinterest with so many people, it's another guilt producer. Well, my house doesn't look like that. So be careful with that. I think
that causes an overwhelming.
It's anxiety. People think, I am honestly so glad that my kids are 22 and 18, and they went through elementary school before
all of the social media.
Before all that came around. But
do you think organization and this whole conversation, do you think that's something that can be, if you didn't grow up in a home that was very organized, do you think it can be taught or learned, or is it sort of?
It can. There's actually, and people laugh when I say this because they think it's just a funny term, but some people are chronically disorganized. That's an actual thing. They just don't have the skill set, and they don't. A lot of my clients, because of my background with special education, I work with a lot of people with ADD and ADHD, because I know strategies from the education world that work, and so I bring that into their homes and offices. And you definitely can teach and learn. The key is not getting frustrated, and the key is to take those, small steps. And that's when I go back to the 2 types of people. Those people need more of, if I'm working with them, more of a coaching model, more of a check-in, more of a, okay, after 30 days, this worked, but carry this bomb, that type of thing. So that's what I love about this, because I've always been good at organizing, but the way I work my business, it really combines my background in education.
And you really can impact people's life for the better. It's a good thing, right?
I do like
that. Something I think about is a lot of times when we go into people's homes, like you said, everyone lives differently and sort of is used to a different grade of organization.
Exactly.
I like things to be kind of perfect and organized, and so I have learned to, know when to reel back, because, what one person's level of organized looks like may not be what the next client maybe is, to the detail, right? But you can't, but then you frustrate them if you try to push them beyond, it becomes a very negative experience.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think I get good feedback on that from my clients, as far as not being judgmental, not being pushy.
Yeah.
But you just said something that reminds me, when we were talking about your spouse or your family members not being on board. One thing that can help, and this has worked with quite a few people, is I say, pick an area or pick a zone, whether it's your entryway or your kitchen table or your counters. For everybody, it's going to be different. What's the one area that makes you happy when it's clean?
Oh,
and
yes.
start with that.
Yeah.
I had a client who they were Pilar. I call myself a reformed Pilar.
A Pilar.
I used to have piles everywhere, but they
Because
were,
it's, what do you say? It's postponing decisions, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Clutter is postponed decisions.
Postponing decisions.
That's a key of my talk. So
Yeah.
hopefully people will go and listen to that. But yes, you pick it up and you put it back
You
down.
don't know what to
You're
do with it.
postponing
Yeah.
the decision. Exactly. And so, but she felt great when her kitchen table was clean and it was glass, and even when she could polish it, but she never saw the kitchen table. So she started with that. She even bought fresh flowers and kept fresh cut flowers. And she just told her family, this is a
This
no,
one area.
this is a no drop zone.
And it made our heart happy.
It
probably.
did. It did. And then they moved on from there. And then it was this section of the kitchen counter. And then it was the mud room. We don't leave our shoes on the floor. And so it was a lot. I'm not going to lie. It was a long process, but their home is completely different now than it used to be. And it wasn't a jarring change to her husband or kids. And she is a lot
You know, it's an
happier.
interesting business you're in because, a lot of us go out to the mall or Amazon or buy a lot of stuff, right? And so we have no problem spending money on more things. But then the thought of spending money or investing in organization or creating order in the house, because really that's a shift in your mindset, right?
It is, yes. And even when people decide they want to get organized, the very first thing they want to do is go buy containers or go to Container Store and go buy bins.
Why? Because we feel like this is what we need to do.
Yes, and I always say don't. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to start, you want to see what you have, you want to declutter, you want to donate as much as you can. You need to then identify.
Isn't that funny? So we're trying to control the clutter by
bringing
buying
in
more
Yes.
clutter.
Yes. I have a
I
client
think we're all guilty of
Yeah,
this.
I have a client right now, and we've been working together for a long time. She had many of the types of clutter. She had them, I won't get into it, but she had a lot going on in her life. She decided early this spring that it's time for me. It's time to reclaim my life and my home, and there's quite a bit of work to do there. But she, as we go through, we've actually started a spot in her basement because she could open her own Container Store now.
Because she has so many of those containers.
So we said,
well-meaning, right? Like
Yes,
at least I'm
and they're
buying
gorgeous.
things that are supposed to help me
Yes.
get more
but
organized.
as we empty and she donates, she's donated a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
sold some things. As we
It's
do
what's
that,
in all these organizations.
now she has even more. So we
Yeah.
did say at the end of our
Interesting.
last session, we said, okay, next time we're going to start
Yeah.
looking to get rid of these or swap some of them out and put stuff in
So the old adage is right, less is more.
It is. It really is. So that's a big tip for everyone. Don't buy organizing
I love that.
materials until you actually get in there and see what you need and see what your space is. And things
One
like
other
that.
thing that I thought was great you talked about is you said something about change is a result of action,
Mhm.
and action is a result of making the decision, right? To be
Right.
And what does it do for us in the long? I think you said something about like taking action is the key here, right?
It is. And well, making the decision is the key. Like
Making the decision to
that-
change our life for the better. Making the
yes,
decision
that
to
I'm
what?
going to streamline things so I have more, so I don't have to stay in the office until 8 every night, or I'm going to change my processes at home so I have more downtime, or I'm going to go to a capsule wardrobe. I don't know if you know what that is, but that's like a very limited small wardrobe where everything goes together. And it's a little more extreme, but some people do that because then that takes the burden off and they don't have
No
to think.
decisions in the morning.
So-
about picking out
So
stuff.
the
Yeah.
decision comes from a pain point. Like
Mhm.
what am I uncomfortable about in my life, and I'm ready to change it. And I have had some comments. I rarely read through them, but I did read through some of the comments on my TED Talk, and there were a couple people pointing out that, well, not making a decision is a decision.
Mhm.
I said, yes, but you're making a decision that that either you're already good or you're going to stay the way you are. But for most of us, the decision process is, I have a good life, but I would like this part to be better.
To be better. I don't want to be late. I don't want to come home late. I want to get my work done during my work
Right.
hours. I
So
wanna
then,
work-
so then you decide, well, what are the steps to take? And that goes back to the process of, stating the vision and what are the steps I have to take to get there? And that's the action. And you can, like we said a couple times now, you can start small, you can start big, you can start with the hardest. Some people, that's the way their brain works.
Mhm.
Some people need to ease in, Like, okay, we're
The
just
hardest meaning like
the
the,
hardest-
spiritual stuff?
Oh,
or
I
no? The
meant-
hardest meaning the heart
whatever part of your project is the
is
hardest.
the hardest. Okay, I
Right.
got
So if it's your digital, or if you haven't even opened your file drawers in 3 years because you're afraid.
too scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know.
So some people want to start with the hardest. Some people want to start with the
Yeah.
easiest.
like
as far
cleaning
as,
the table.
Right, like cleaning the table. Let's set up a flow for the daily mail in,
Okay.
out. Where am I going to put my to-dos? That tends to be a little more simple for most
Okay.
people. So just as some people want to do it all at once and some people want to break it down, then there's also those two groups. Do I start with the hard stuff?
Yeah.
Do I start with the easy stuff? So all that is part of the decision, and then you decide where you're going to take the action, and that's ultimately where you see change.
That is
You
perfect.
see, yeah.
This
So
is so valuable.
yeah,
Thank
'cause,
you.
I mean, our life is basically an accumulation of all the decisions we've ever made about our stuff, whether it's our bills or our relationships or our things. I mean, it's
And
all
and then again, even the intangibles, our mindset, our beliefs,
Mhm.
our thoughts, our all of those
Yeah.
things is like things we've collected
Right.
through our life, and it's up to
Right.
us to sort of like focus in on what we want
Right.
to improve and amend.
Yeah.
And all that.
and I can almost like
It's good.
tell or sense, because I've given this talk before, that right now at about this point, there are those people saying, even what she's saying is bringing overwhelm. I don't know where to start. So just keep in mind that there's no judgment. It's for you. It's to make your life flow more easily.
Yeah.
And so do it for you. That's what I tell everybody. Don't do it because your mom says you have to. Don't do it because your spouse says, it has to be for you.
For you.
Otherwise,
And
it's
when
not,
you're ready.
yeah, otherwise it's not going to stick.
Yeah. Okay, very good. That's wonderful. I was going to ask Melissa, do we have any questions, or has it been quiet?
It's been quiet.
Okay. All right, good. Where can people get more information about you and your business?
Okay, so I think the easiest thing to do is if they go to my website, it's
Okay.
www.conquerthechaos.com.
Okay.
It can also be reached at CTC Organizing. That's an older link that some people still have. So CTC Organizing or conquerthechaos.com. And then on the main page, actually on all the pages, are the little icons, and people can, like, I have Facebook, I have an Instagram, I have Twitter, LinkedIn, all that type of thing. So if they want to follow on social media.
Wonderful.
they
For
can
tips
go
and
there.
advice
Yes,
and all
exactly.
that. Okay,
Yep.
good. This has been wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being our guest today. And I want to say thank you guys for coming to join us today. And hopefully you got some good ideas and tips. And we are excited. We host our coffee chats every month on Empowering Women. And look forward to seeing you guys next month. Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you.